I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Alexander, Trump has made history. He is the first U.S. president to enter North Korea. I think these videos, these photos are going to be remembered for a very, very long time. It's a very smart move.
Oh, absolutely.
Very, very smart move. A very good move by North Korea as well. And Kim for accepting that invitation as well. A very smart move there.
Yes.
What do you make of what we are seeing, which maybe I can say is historic?
Yes, it is historic. I mean, this is a country, North Korea, which the United States, of course, has always been in a state of war with, is still actually in a state of war with ever since the Korean War in the 1940s and 1950s, and which has been quite possibly the single most demonized country in the United States on earth. And of course, the leaders of North Korea, people like Kim Jong-un, who is the current leader, the current great leader of the country, is seen by many people in the United States and is routinely described in the US media as some sort of, monster, dictator, mass murderer. There were only articles appearing only just a few weeks ago based on a very, very poorly sourced piece from a South Korean newspaper that Kim Jong-un had executed his entire negotiating team, which is complete nonsense.
Poorly sourced.
Poorly sourced, and I mean it's several of them have now turned up alive and well. But we get all those sorts of things going on all the time, and what Donald Trump is doing by going to North Korea is, first of all, he's going to North Korea a few days after the Chinese leader Xi Jinping also went to North Korea. This is not a visit that attracted a great deal of attention, but it was a visit which showed the closeness of North Korea and China. Now, Donald Trump and the US, they have an interest in balancing Chinese influence in North Korea by offering to the North Koreans the option of a better relationship with the United States. And so what Donald Trump is doing is obviously he's de-escalating tensions in the Korean Peninsula, which is an important thing in itself if we remember how dangerous things appeared to be just 2 years ago. I mean, when people, when the North Koreans were launching missiles and the US fleet was, moving around the Korean Peninsula.
Right, Rocket Man and
Rocket Man and all that stuff. So he's de-escalating tensions. He's strengthened US relations with South Korea, which are also becoming frayed as the South Koreans were becoming worried that they were becoming trapped into this confrontation between the US and North Korea. He has inserted the US again back at the center of the whole negotiation between by North Korea about its nuclear weapons capability. So there was a danger that the North Koreans would start to cut out the US and deal directly with China and South Korea by going to North Korea, meeting with Kim Jong-un in that way. Donald Trump has again made clear the centrality of the United States in solving this nuclear question with North Korea. He has shown Kim Jong-un immense respect, which is, of course, hugely important in the Korean East Asian culture to which Kim Jong-un himself belongs. He's done that by visiting Kim Jong-un's country and apparently floating this possibility of hosting Kim Jong-un in the United States itself, which would be a huge breakthrough. Altogether, he has carried out very effective diplomacy. I should say that right at the beginning, when all this began, I did say to myself, in fact, I said on several of our programs that Donald Trump might do with North Korea the same thing that Nixon did with China. Put aside this long history of tension and reach out to the adversary by visiting their country, by being hosted by them, by meeting with them. And that policy of Nixon's paid massive dividends for the US. And, if Donald Trump is able to follow through with this visit and build a good working relationship with Kim Jong-un and ultimately establish a kind of relationship with North Korea, it could also pay big dividends for the US.
Yeah, now Trump said that he's in no rush to ditch sanctions just yet.
Yeah.
But what it does show is that if the United States does implement good diplomacy,
Yes.
then it shouldn't have to rely on sanctions. And I think this is the right way for the U.S. to engage with the world, to start easing up on all the sanctions that it's imposed on so many countries and start using diplomacy. And Trump is actually showing how it's done, because we went through 8 years of Obama where there was no diplomacy at all.
Exactly.
And Trump is surrounded by the neocons, by Bolton and Pompeo, who also don't want to use any diplomacy. But Trump is actually leading by example.
Yes.
And Alexander, doesn't this show that for all the critics of Trump that say he's arrogant and that he uses fear and that he bullies people, the fact that he was the president, he was the one that stepped foot in North Korea, that shows a lot of humility.
Yes.
I mean, it shows a humble man, and it shows a man who is making, a goodwill gesture to a country that has been demonized. And I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments that are going to say, we kissed Trump's ass and, blah, 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 all those criticisms. But it is the truth. I mean, he showed a lot of courage and he led by example there.
Yes, I mean, he's absolutely, he's carried out, as you rightly say, diplomacy, which is something people in the United States have stopped doing for a very long time.
You talked about the UK during a live stream, how the UK has lost its ability to actually engage in diplomacy.
Exactly. And of course, if you're going to engage in diplomacy, you need to talk to people. You need to meet them. You need to have contacts with people like Kim Jong-un. If you go back in time to some of my articles about North Korea on the Duran, before we had any diplomacy at all, this is while Barack Obama was still president. And I was saying, we don't even know what sort of a person Kim Jong-un is. Well, we know an awful lot more now, because Donald Trump is taking the trouble to meet him and to talk with him and to find out that this is not a crazy, a power-mad, fanatical despot, but somebody you can talk to and conduct negotiations with and try to find some kind of way forward. And may I say, one of the things that, we have both actually criticized Donald Trump for is for the fact that he's appointed people like Bolton and Pompeo and surrounded himself with them and doesn't always seem to have great control over what they do. It seems to me that what we've seen over these last few days with Donald Trump in Osaka, with Donald Trump meeting with Xi Jinping and with Putin, and now, most of all, with his big step he has taken to meet with Kim Jong-un in the DMZ and to actually, as I said, step foot in North Korea. What we're seeing is Donald Trump showing to Bolton and Pompeo, I'm the boss, I'm the person who makes these decisions. I want to speak to the Chinese, to the Russians, and to the North Koreans. And who knows? Perhaps this is the first public glimmer that these rumors that Donald Trump is becoming dissatisfied with John Bolton and the way John Bolton, in Donald Trump's words, wants wars all the time with everyone, that perhaps Donald Trump is indeed becoming impatient with all of that and wants to see John Bolton go. So, it's hopeful for many reasons. Now, it's not a breakthrough. The two men did not negotiate away any weapons. But as I said, in a relationship where there were no negotiations at all just 2 years ago, and where the North Koreans were just adding more and more nuclear weapons and more ballistic missiles, at least, this is a big step forward from that. At least countries that talk to each other in this sort of way are less likely to go to war with each other.
Yeah, I think it's just a good feeling to see North Korea come out of, the shadows. And it's Trump who's bringing them out of the shadows. And this is a very good thing. It doesn't matter if you're left or right or however you feel about Trump. I mean, nothing but good came out of the fact that he stepped into the North Korea to actually meet Kim. And, Trump does this with a lot of world leaders. We saw it displayed at the G20, the fact that he was joking around with Putin and he took something so serious that was, biting at his ankles for 2-3 years, like the Russian meddling. When the reporter asked him that question, and he looked at Putin and he joked around and he says, don't meddle in the elections. And Putin laughed and he laughed. And of course, the idiots in mainstream media, once again, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying that. But, it shows the joking, the humanity there between these leaders. And it adds a human element to the whole thing because these are people that are joking around and they're having fun with what was a very serious topic.
Exactly. And this is one of the great differences between Trump and Obama. I mean, I can remember Obama so well when he attended meetings, and he was always with world leaders, other world leaders. He was always cold and aloof and often looked frankly bored and clearly always thought that he was the cleverest man in the room and behaved as if, he was this head teacher having to deal with a bunch of mischievous idiots. Whereas Donald Trump, as you correctly say, he's able to joke with them and laugh with them. And that does make a difference. It does mean that people warm to him personally. And even when countries cannot find agreements between each other because disputes are too intractable, the very fact that their two leaders are able to get on with each other and have some kind of understanding of each other does mean that conflicts can then be mediated between them. They can pick up the phone and they can say, they can say to Donald, this is beginning to look really difficult. Let's have a talk and let's see what we could sort out so that this doesn't get out of hand. And that's what diplomacy is. Diplomacy, more than anything else, is about managing relations. Achieving breakthroughs is actually the smallest part of it. I mean, that happens very rarely in diplomacy, and it never happens unless that personal relationship isn't there.
Yeah, the relationship comes first. Then you get to the nitty gritty and formulating some sort of breakthrough. First comes the relationship. You can't, come to an agreement with people.
Yes.
And these are people that you just don't get along with.
Well, exactly. I mean, I can remember going back in time. I mean, again, I know Ronald Reagan is always a controversial person with some people, but in his person, he was always a man of great charm and very polite. And as I said, when he met with the Russian leaders and when he met with the Chinese leaders, they liked him. And that paved the way to many things. And the same is true of, I am sure, of Donald Trump. I will say there's one exception, which is that some European leaders, Merkel in particular, don't seem to get on with him because, as I said, they don't really understand what he's up to at all. And he offends their ideological convictions in a way that they can't personally forgive. But with people like Putin and Xi Jinping, and now with Kim Jong-un, that doesn't seem to be an issue at all.
Yeah, I mean, Merkel, Macron, they're very much the mold of Obama. They were the people that wanted, Obama was this elite guy that would go to the G20 meetings, and he was aloof and above everybody. And Merkel and Macron and Hollande and Sarkozy and Cameron and all these guys, they wanted to Mr. Obama, can we sit at the table with you? They wanted to be part of the elite group.
Exactly.
Trump is just not from that mold at all. Trump is old school.
Exactly. I mean, this very self-important, as I remember. I mean, Obama and the European leaders are very self-important, very humorless, if I have to say
Yeah.
it frankly. I mean, they are very humorless, and very arrogant, frankly. Whereas, as I said, Trump is none of those things, and no, and nor is Putin, and nor is Xi Jinping. And it seems that Kim Jong-un isn't either. So, as I said, at a personal level, they're able to get on. And as I said, from Kim Jong-un's point of view, the fact that the president of the United States visits his country in that way, even though it's, this very restricted format, and meets with him, is going to make a big difference. It's going to change both his perception and the perception of those around him in a society where, as I said, questions of honor and respect matter a great deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. I could just see that we're going to probably get a lot of
Well,
a
I
lot
know.
of flack for this, but
I
you know what?
mean,
It is
why-
the truth. You have to talk
It
to
is the
people.
truth.
You have to
talk
talk to
truth.
people,
Exactly.
and you have to have them come out of the shadows,
Yes.
and you have to deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say this again,
And
I
he has
said
to do the
this
same with Iran. And before you go ahead. He has to do, for
Absolutely.
all his faults,
Absolutely.
Trump has to do the same with Iran as he did with North Korea. He needs to talk to him. We need to get away from this evil mullahs, the stuff that you hear Hannity talking about, and everyone, the evil Iran and the evil mullahs. We need to get away from that. We need to bring them to the table, and we need to have Trump speak with Iran as well.
Exactly. In ways, by the way, that despite the fact that he negotiated the JCPOA, Barack Obama never did. He never really interacted with the Iranian leadership in any serious fashion. I mean, he didn't really have meetings with people like Rouhani and with people like Zarif, the foreign minister. And of course, any idea of the US restoring diplomatic relations with Iran and Barack Obama visiting Iran, well, that wasn't simply wasn't there. I mean, the JCPOA, which I support, I thought that was a good deal in many respects, was a deal that was forced on Obama by his European allies, a fact which many people don't seem to understand, and also, by the way, by the Chinese and the Russians. He did it because the French and the Germans, especially the Germans, wanted it, but because he didn't underpin it with a serious attempt to really build a good relationship with Iran, that deal never really stuck in the United States. I'm not supporting Donald Trump's cancellation of that deal at all, but if Donald Trump can talk to the Iranians, meet with the Iranians, conduct the same kind of negotiations with the Iranians that he's conducting now with the North Koreans, then maybe we won't just get a deal, but it will be a more survivable deal than the one that he himself canceled.
Right, that's an excellent point. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on that subscribe button. Click on the notifications bell as well to make sure you get notifications every time we push out a new video. Hit that like button. Go to Soundcloud or iTunes and get an audio copy of this video. Donate to us on PayPal, Patreon, and we are now on Subscribestar as well. That really helps out a lot, and your donations really help us out a lot. Another thing that helps us out a lot is when Alexander gets a purchase for a magic mug or a polo shirt.
Or a polo shirt, exactly. These are the magic mugs that I have at the moment. Now, as I said, this is my mug, and this is my wife's mug. But if I can focus at the moment on this mug, which is a beautiful mug, porcelain with our double-headed eagle logo. Double-headed because he points to the east and the west, and you see how we've covered the east in this program. We've covered, well, actually both the east and west, because Donald Trump represents the west, and Kim Jong-un is very much of the east. But we look to both, we analyze both, and we drink to both from mugs like this. And I'm drinking at the moment a very famous Chinese tea. Some of those of you who know all about China and Chinese tea will know about this one. It's called Big Red Robe. It's one of the famous oolong teas of China, drunk by the emperor himself, the Chinese emperor, no doubt drunk by people like Kim Jong-un, who's known to have a liking for such things, and by Xi Jinping. I'm sure that Xi Jinping provides Kim Jong-un his very good friend with teas like this. And I have no doubt that they drink it from mugs very like this one. Maybe not this one exactly, because
one day
they will. But this is perfect for drinking tea like that. I mean, you want a good porcelain mug, and when it's a tea like this, which is a wonderful tea, you really want a high quality mug to drink your tea from, a tea like that. And this is that kind of a mug. And it refreshes me, and it enlarges my mind, and it enables me to do what St. George is doing here on my wife's mug, which is to analyze things and to slay untruth and falsehood, as you see St. George slaying the dragon that represents those things. And of course, that's in the coat of arms of Moscow, which has the same double-headed eagle as we do. And just to also say, you notice that I'm now wearing my other polo shirt, because it's got much hotter these last couple of days in London. Today was a bit cooler, by the way, but yesterday was extremely hot by our standards. And this is a perfect polo shirt to wear when it gets very hot and where the weather is variable. It's 100% cotton. It has our wonderful double-headed eagle logo, beautifully embroidered here. You can just see it, I think.
Scoot it up a little bit. Yeah. There you go. Okay, there you go. And it is a nice embroidery. I mean, I've got a couple of polo shirts, and they're really, really nice. It's gorgeous
embroidery. Yeah. And as I said, it fits well. It's immensely comfortable. It looks smart. I was at a wonderful place near London called Ham House, which is a famous stately home which used to receive royalty in the age of Charles II. And so you really want to be wearing a really good shirt when you're walking your dogs in a place like that. And of course, that was the shirt I was wearing.
God, we got to do some sort of like travel channel or history channel, like a second channel. Maybe.
Absolutely. Maybe so. All right. Well, and I can introduce you all to all these places, and you can see me touring around them in shirts like this with my two dogs, and you see how appropriate it is to wear shirts like this when I do that. And by the way, at Ham House they have tea and tea caddies and chocolate making machines, and we also drink hot chocolate from our magic mugs. Okay. And great to do it, that is too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alexander Mercouris. The link for the Duran shop is in the description box down below. Until next time, everybody, take care.